In the summertime, I feel like you need the biggest wind that you can fish to be somewhat successful with a jerkbait. It limits the fish's ability to be able to see your baits, and it's going to make you more successful in that period of time. As far as the water conditions, another thing that becomes real critical, not just up north, but even in this part of the country, is when you fish river systems. The Alabama River, the Coosa River, even some of our lakes, if we get some movement in them, you would be shocked if you get into a current type situation where there are some eddies and stuff created, how much that can increase your opportunities to catch fish on a stickbait. So, you know, don't ever be afraid to go a little farther up a creek or a little farther up one of the river systems if we get some runoff, especially once that runoff starts clearing up after a big rain. As far as equipment, when I go up north, I'm going to put on a 7-to-1 gear ratio reel. Those smallmouth and those fish up there are so hot that if you're trying to catch them on a slower speed reel, you can't catch up with them, and you really can't ever work a bait too fast. I mean, you've seen Van Dam. I mean, he is nonstop just going. So put it on a 7-to-1 gear ratio reel when that water temperature is warm, because it doesn't affect your ability to fish the bait the way you want to fish it. As far as late fall and in the winter, you know, this is probably the second time of the year that I really enjoy throwing a stickbait. Once that water temperature starts falling, once it gets to that 60-degree mark and really starts falling, the fish basically do almost the exact same thing they do in pre-spawn. They've been out deep, they've been out there, you know, just hovering in 15 to 40, 50 foot of water depending on where you're at. But when that water temperature cools back down, those fish almost use that same migration route that they used in the spring. You'll catch a lot of those fish in the same areas. Points, channel swings, any of those situations can become good. The big key in the fall, though, is you got to be around bait. I don't care what you do. If you go into a creek, don't make a cast until you identify that there is bait in that creek, because you're wasting your time. I mean, you're fishing the Dead Sea if you're not fishing around bait in the fall. So that's probably the biggest thing that you want to look for. I do like a little more off-colored water in the fall, especially when those fish really start chasing bait and get up in the backs of the creeks on the flats. Your odds go up if the water has got some color in it. Grand Lake, I don't know how many times, you know, late in the fall I've gone over there, especially since the 115s come out, and got back in the backs of those flats where you see those fish chasing bait, and you can't catch them on a spinner bait, you can't catch them on a buzz bait, but you can catch them on a stick bait. So definitely employ that into your game plan. And then cover water. You know, that's one of the biggest things, that when the water's warmer, you can cover a lot more water, you can keep your bait moving, and that's one of the biggest keys to being successful in the fall, is covering big amounts of water, because even though they follow the same transitions that they do in the spring, they seem to be more scattered in the fall. I mean, you'll catch one on a point, you'll catch one halfway down a channel swing. So sometimes you just got to go into a creek and put the trolling motor down and fish until you really determine what are these fish relating to. And you'll be surprised how many fish you pick off just covered in water. Again, the bait and equipment choices, I mean, it's pretty much the same with that up-speeded reel until the water really gets cold. As far as the late fall and winter, though, late fall, the 115 is probably primarily the bait that I'm going to be throwing. Once you get into, like I said, once that water temperature gets down into that 50-degree range and starts really falling, that is when that McRib 85 can really play. The difference in fishing the 85 over the 95, the 110, and the 115 is the cadence and how you fish the bait. The 85 is more of a rip bait or a pull bait. When you make a cast with that 85, you wind it down and you sweep your rod a lot more, and you make the bait rip, and then you stop it and let it suspend. There's times I'll twitch it a little bit, but it's really made more to rip and pull than your cadence of the 95, the 110, and the 115.
And the information Bass University provides isn't your basic run-of-the-mill fishing video. This is specific information from A to Z to help you learn, get to the water, and become a better angler quickly.